I'm Will Lennox from Channel 9, which is a free-to-air broadcaster based nationally in Australia, but specifically I'm based in Sydney. My job is to make sure we can get all vision, audio and ancillary data around the facility. So because we're an IP 2110 facility, a lot of traditional devices still use SDI, so we have to be able to sort of bridge between SDI, 2110 and NDI. So we use the BirdDog Studios and the BirdDog Quad 4Ks to make sure that we can get SDI into NDI and vice versa, and that'll all go into our 2110 conversion devices. So to be able to get into software that's NDI based, the Quad 4Ks are definitely the go-to devices for us within the NDI environment. In the city, in North Sydney specifically, you have very specific ratings that are required for anything on the roof. In our tower, our mounting for wind speeds and weather, IP67 rated, the BirdDog A300 met those requirements. We also had a requirement for redundancy, so we have the SDI as well as the NDI out, in which we have a PoE injector that goes into the switch. If we ever lose any of that networking infrastructure, we have the SDI going into a fiber converter, which goes all the way down into the data center, so we can make sure we're always getting that footage if required. That footage is also recorded 24/7, 365 into one of our EVSs. So if anything ever happens, we can make sure we can shuttle through that, and that's available to us. The wide shot of Sydney Harbour is probably the most important for us and for news downstairs. They use that in the backdrop of the 1600 news. It's also used for car accidents on the bridge, any events that happen in the harbour that we can zoom in on. The great zoom that the camera has allows us to get pretty good shots of any accidents or events like that at the Opera House or anywhere along the harbour there. Back to weather, we also look at the sort of rolling storms that can come in from out east in the ocean or from the west over the hills. We get awesome weather shots coming in from that, and they love the time-lapse shots, and they use those in combination with storm footage. They get some pretty cool shots. Being able to access all the devices within the same network and just select source and destinations is one of the main attractions for us. We can push that back onto our producers and our operators in small control rooms and controlled environments, and it just makes it a lot easier.
Well, it is that time again, everybody. Hope you are doing well. My name is BirdDog John, and I am back in action.
In those scenarios, it's good to neuralize the cameras. You guys know that best.
Very straightforward. Plug it in, go to the web UI, link the source, walk away. Like super simple. I keep looking over at the chat, and I keep seeing you are full of it. Tasty, spicy meat snacks. Covered in flavor. I mean, you can't go wrong. So what's going on? We've got a handful of folks here in the chat, and I really appreciate that. What's up, mate? Hey, Warren, how are you? Appreciate it. Hey, Robbie, how's it going, man? You're just talking about you. What's going on, Tom? Ahoy. How is it going? What's going on, Go Web? Good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with us again today. Appreciate that. Feel like I'm in this video more than anyone but John. It's true, NetApp. You are, I'm going to cut this up and put this in the next intro. What's going on, everybody? I am indeed BirdDog John. Welcome to the May the 4th episode of the BirdDogLive show. We don't normally get them to fall right on the day of the show, and so maybe this is something we have to kick off a little more often. But I am live back on BirdDog, and let me just verify my audio here. So, hey, that sounds all right. It's peaking a little bit on Inside vMix. So let me know if it's a little too loud. I can certainly dial it back a shade, which I probably will do. It's because we're up and running over here at BirdDog. So hopefully you're doing well. I got my coffee. I'm ready to go. So ready to chat about whatever it is that you got going on. I got my Millennium Falcon shirt on today in honor of Star Wars Day. My kids all have their Star Wars shirts on. My wife is a teacher. She's got a Star Wars shirt on. So it's happening. And it's a good time to hang out and whatever. So hopefully you're doing well. And enjoying the lovely day. It is a beautiful day over here, by the way, in Auburn Hills, the first of hopefully many, but we haven't had really nice blue skies in a couple of weeks, and so here we are outside the Auburn Hills office, just blue skies. Got a bit of like a small forest on the other side, so yeah, it's nice and sunny outside. It's going up to 60 degrees. It's already 53 out there, which is somewhere in the teens for those of you who live in the rest of the world other than the U.S. So yeah, beautiful day outside. We're really excited about that. What's going on, Go Web? Greetings from India. How are you? Hopefully you're doing well. You and your daughter, Sanaya. Hopefully you're having a good end to your Thursday over there in India. I'm from Stockholm, Sweden. In the car headed home. May the force be with you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yes, may the force be with you. I've lined up a few Star Wars effects, so we'll see where they fit in later today. But we'll go with that. And one of the things that we want to touch on today in today's show is just about, so on Tuesday I showed my setup, and one of the questions that came up kind of internally with my crew here is just getting more context as to like how people are using products or how they're implementing them, in what scale, are people using them. I know that, for example, in this office, we've got some lightweight computers, and so I'm running quite a large network card, but then our bottlenecks becomes the CPU and the GPUs that are attached to the machine. And so I'm good for a handful of NDI signals on this computer that I have. It's older now. You can't buy it. I've looked it up in terms of am I able to, look at it or buy another one or whatever, and you can't. But these little nut computers tend to roll over pretty quick, so they go in and out of. They're like throwaway machines, to be honest with you, and they claim to be gaming computers, but you would never run anything on this because it barely runs vMix. But once vMix is up and running for, I don't know, an hour, the CPU seems to settle down. So right now we're running at about 70%, 65, 70% CPU, and that then seems to be all about, that seems to be steady enough. I've got two cameras that I'm bringing into the show. So I have this one, right, and this one. So I've got the P200 that's up in the roost, and then I've got the P4K that's here in front of me. Those are the two NDI cameras that I've got running, but I've got options for Auburn Road. So I have a PF120 that's watching the road now, that's sitting in the windowsill of my office, and then I have an overhead P100 that is here that we use for demos and such. And so all of these cameras, I really should put my face in the corner of all of these, but anyways, those are all NDI sources. And then lastly, of course, is the desktop view, which is the one that we use for demonstrations. And so that's my second monitor that's up there next to my camera, next to the P4K. And those are my sources. Those are my NDI sources. So what does that mean? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 NDI sources coming across. But the screen capture one is a local source, essentially. So it's not going out and coming back. I think it's just staying local in here because it's being generated on this machine. So I don't really see a bunch of bandwidth increase when I light that up. But the other ones, the cameras, those ones are all, of course, in full bandwidth right now, and they're all generating a fair bit. Actually, I should verify that. Are they all full bandwidth? And they don't necessarily need to be. I mean, the overhead, I could probably, let's change this one. So this overhead camera, if I ran this in low bandwidth, like what do the letters look like on the keyboard? See, yeah, that's not too bad. It's not amazing, but it certainly saves on the bandwidth, and so that may be something that I would consider, especially for something that's so low resolution as showing, if I was showing something on the table, and I will show something on the table. So Balu rolled up today. Today's snacks on stream is Bumpy Cake, Sanders Bumpy Cake from here in the U.S., so I'm pretty excited about that. I've heard good reviews so far of people eating it out in the lobby, so we're going to give that a go later on. Snacks on stream. I have no doubt that I will enjoy this unless he has laced it with something unexpected. So, all good, all good. GoWeb says, hey, I heard about Remedy. Yes, we all heard about Remedy. That's pretty exciting. We'll talk about that a little bit pretty soon because we should catch up about what that's for and what the market is there and how that's going to kind of work. But we could even look at the social media post. I'll see what I can do. I'll pull it up. Hey, I forgot to wear my Star Wars shirt today. That's okay. I give you a pass and let you wear it tomorrow. But today is indeed May the 4th. So You even said, May the 4th be with you. Yes. I did. I did give a little shout out yesterday. Hey, tomorrow's May the 4th. And the title of the show is May the 4th. So perhaps you were busy. But hey, nice shirt. Looks cool. Thanks. I get a lot of compliments on this shirt. I had nothing to do with the creation of it. I just purely bought it. But it is one of my favorite shirts. I don't have very many Star Wars shirts, but it is one of my favorites because it's basically it's like the blueprint photos of the Millennium Falcon. So it's pretty cool. John's not wearing a black shirt. It's true. I actually wore color today, which I'm not a huge fan of, and so I'm just going to stick to this camera. But in general, yes, I did wear color, and I chose a topical shirt. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'll wear it on Revenge of the 5th. Do it. That's great. I love that. Approved. Okay, so yeah, let's pull up. Let me see if I can pull up the stuff on Remedy because that stuff hit socials yesterday. Let me see. Am I logged into my Twitter account here? I believe I am not. Oh, crap. Okay, so I'm not going to do it on this machine. Yoink. Should really fix that. All right, but this machine will have it. So I was scrolling through socials last night and saw that it launched, which is pretty exciting. And I actually posted it. Oh. I actually posted it on the actual BirdDog Help Twitter page. So that will be here. Here we go. Oh, I think maybe it retweeted as myself. Whoopsie daisy. Okay, so yoink. And let's share this over here on the main screen. And I'll try and blow this up so that you can see this. But is it going to do audio capture? Probably not natively. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. Desktop audio, this one. Add it. And let me just see if it works. Does not appear to be working, so let's see if I can fix that. Audio source needs actually looks like I can. Yoink. Just give me a second here, folks, because I believe I can set up the audio on the desktop to route out of the audio source. Let's see if this works. Bear with me, folks. Is that actually coming through? Crap. I can't see it yet. 1 second. This is the real deal, guys. This is what it's like running a show all by yourself and not having a producer. Is that it is basically up to you to make it happen. I've got so many audio sources because you can with vMix that it should be coming through that channel, but it's not. Right? Because
hi everybody!
Hi,
Dr. Nick!
Okay, so audio source should be system audio. And then desktop. Yeah, now it's playing. Okay, cool. So hopefully you can hear that. If I catch it on YouTube real quick. Yoink. Oh, I didn't catch it on YouTube. Here we go. Whoa, that was in like surround sound. Yeah, okay. All right. So there it is. All right. So here we go. Yoink. We're going to throw this up there. And we can watch this Remedy announcement. So it like abruptly ended. I need to talk to the guys because several of the latest videos that came out are they just stop for some reason, like randomly. They just done. So I need to talk to them about, hey, could we do like a fade or something and make it a little bit easier to transition out of these videos? But yes, it's quite an abrupt stop. So that's interesting stuff. But okay, so I had asked for you guys to put in the chat about what it is that you guys are up to and how what your setups are, how you're using BirdDog, how that's all working out for you. What have been your successes? What are your bumps on the road, your hiccups? Let me know, and we'll talk about that stuff because I want to provide some context as to like how it is that people are actually using the BirdDog products. I mean, we service them, right? But we get cameras from all sorts of different types of installations, and Remedy is actually a great example of the expansiveness of the BirdDog product line and how it's actually being integrated in a bunch of stuff. So we'll talk about Remedy a little bit more coming up in the show, but let's move along in the chat here and catch up with all of you guys. My setup with vMix is 4 to 6 NDI cameras, 2 to 4 audio only sources, and 1 NDI output. And depending on what the computer is, how does that seem to work? 4 to 6 is basically what I'm doing. I'm doing a couple of NDI outputs from vMix just for multi-viewer, which is on a screen below the camera, and then I'm sending the NDI over to this machine, which is then sending it up to StreamYard, which is how you are all watching this. So let me know how that's going and what sort of bumps in the road you've had, or what sort of successes. Like what is it that you're generally doing with that rig? Are you doing sports? Are you doing, what are you producing a video cast show? Are you doing something on YouTube? What is it? Last night I did 5 camera remote. What's going on, NetApp? Remote production, 4 SDI via quad and a P200 over Silicon 2 SRT using NDI bridge, and my vMix was at 30% CPU with only the built-in Intel wowzers. That is impressive. You're doing 4 SDIs into quad and a 200 using an SRT and NDI bridge. That's impressive. How'd that go for you, NetHab? Be interested to hear a little bit more about how setup was and how the actual did it work as you had hoped. Ahoy, what's going on, Daniel? How are you? Welcome back. Soundman447, hey, what's going on? How are you? Thanks for stopping by today. Appreciate that. Are we finally getting robot surgeries powered by 5G? We're not controlling the robots. I don't know. I don't know what that market is up to be quite honest with you. But I do know a little bit about Remedy and how it's being implemented, and how BirdDog, NDI, cloud, all that stuff is all starting to turn into a ecosystem that medical facilities can use to bring in, folks from all over the world into these. Anyway. So when we talk on this show about the collaboration of having people remote in and do productions over like Adobe and stuff, Remedy is kind of the same concept where now we're able to bring in physicians and doctors and people into the surgeries, but not have to fly them across the country or around the world to do these specialized surgeries. Now they can be a part of those in a mentoring fashion, which honestly is it happens way more often than you think it does. When they fly in the specialist, that he's not necessarily the one doing the surgeries, because he may not be, approved at that hospital or gone through all the red tape, but they bring him in or her to do to basically assist and to do these complicated surgeries. So what this is basically the ability to bring them in remotely and them not have to leave their office, which saves them a lot of time. They can still send the invoice for the actual service, but they don't have to get hotels or airplanes or all that stuff that goes on. So it's cutting out a lot of the waste that comes with the requirements of having these specialists and bringing that whole world a lot closer. So we are running this in some test environments and a couple of medical facility test environments, and the results so far have been pretty promising. So that's exciting stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be more Now, this isn't Remedy is not something that you as a prosumer or consumer would be looking to get into unless you're specifically in the medical field. And I'm not entirely sure how to accurately talk about its association with BirdDog because it's using basically the technology of BirdDog, but it's not, this isn't like BirdDog Remedy. Okay. That's not what it is. So we're working very closely with the guys that are collaborating for the Remedy, which is actually one of the things that was in the video. And, we're onboarding all of our gear and our infrastructure and all that sort of thing in a way to demonstrate, by the way, how this could really be done at large scale. And so this is one of those pieces that will demonstrate the power of NDI and BirdDog Cloud and all that good stuff and why you would want a complete solution like that. So it's good stuff. Seems like you need this to set up Stream Deck keys for some jobs until you find a producer. Yeah, well, I've got Stream Deck mostly doing the soundboard at this point. And then I've got X keys doing a lot of the actual commands for vMix. So that's been working really well for me. But when I have an epiphany on the show and I decide, all right, let's watch that because, I wasn't necessarily planning on going down the Remedy path, but it was a good idea. And so here's the bumper video for it, kind of the intro video for it. And that did launch last night. And I'm allowed to talk about it because they sent me an email saying, hey, we launched this. So there we go. It looks really promising. I used to film lots of live surgeries. Oh, cool. That's pretty neat. Hang on, I got a sound effect for that.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's a really interesting job that you had. This would be not necessarily, well, I don't know. I guess, you could film surgeries. Really, this is designed to be an assist, right? This isn't like mission critical type of stuff where you're doing everything in real time and if it hiccups, the person dies. That's not what we're up to here. What we're up to here is providing virtual, almost like, real-time, low latency over the cloud infrastructure to the medical community, which is something that has been attempted multiple times. Like if you look out of the market, there are services that have attempted to do this, but again, they just don't have the horsepower that NDI has, and they just don't have, honestly, the intuition that BirdDog brings to that conversation. So I'm very excited that this is something that we're collaborating with to kind of get off the ground, and there's great potential with it. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. What's going on, MTash? Good morning. Seems like auto tracking doing a fine job there in the video. Well, we'll have to watch the video again because I didn't notice the auto tracking, but I don't know. I hope so. I was actually curious if the X120 supports 3D or not. I wasn't sure if that flavor of NDI included it in the specs or not. You know what? I don't know. Let me see if I can find out, because there is, I believe there's like a comparison chart on here somewhere. Where is it? Is it down here? Battery mount. Usually they put it in the, it'll be on the thing. So on the actual page, if 3D is integrated. Now 3D is a beta, right? So that's not necessarily even official for our camera line. But let's jump over to tech specs. Anything in there? Nope. So it's not on the initial page. But I actually don't have an X120 yet, and so I'm waiting for that to be shipped to me so that we can begin our testing. But I don't see anything specifying 3D for the X120 because, and the X120 has a very specific market, right? Like there are people that this will work great for, and then there are people that this wouldn't make much sense. Where is the P110 120? Because I think we can differentiate pretty quickly. Yeah. So the P110 120 specifically goes out of their way to say 3D on the site, but the X120 doesn't mention it. And so I think it's safe to say that is the dealio. That's one of the features that you would pay for with the P120. So I don't know, but I'm suspicious that that's the way it is. There you go. I'm still hoping to set up an NDI bird dog studio, but politics are complicated. Oh, I understand. I mean, I don't think I fully understand your specific situation, but I do understand that politics are getting in the way and make things complicated. I have 4 P400s, a bunch of flex outs from a TC2 Elite. You guys have video of my setup here in Nashville. Fantastic. The end. You're in Nashville? Where in Nashville are you? I might be passing through Nashville this weekend. Might be. It worked pretty well. NDI bridge was probably the weakest link. Can't wait for the quad to get silicone too. Audio was using a 1U Midas M32C remote controlled over VPN and transported via Magewell. All right, we'll say that word. AES 67 to SRT convert. Okay, cool. That seems to work pretty well. I'm streaming sports, 3 BirdDog Flex ins, a P200, and a BirdDog Mini. Nice. Any sports in particular that or do you just any sport will do if you're looking for work? Just curious, like what your scope of work is. The computer was a 5-year-old Core i7 8700. I think that's basically what this thing is. I could find out. Using TriCaster Mini, 460. Ooh, there's a throwback. And soon a TC1 Pro. 2 to 5 P200s, 2 to 4 BirdDog Minis connected to Canon XA25s and Marshalls. BirdDog keyboard, Stream Deck with central control, companion, yada, yada, yada. There's a soundbite that I need. The yada, yada soundbite. Yada, yada, yada. I just installed a 24-port Netgear 4250 switch with 6 BirdDog P200s and a PTZ keyboard, NDI5. An NDI4, I have a TriCaster TC1, NewTek Studio I/O, 4 Panasonic PTZs, and a controller. That's cool. Can they play nicely on the same 4250? I tried setting up half ports as NDI5 and half as NDI4, but I can't get the DHCP server to send IPs overall. Yeah, because they're going to be separate VLANs, right? Because you're setting different profiles. Allegedly, NDI5 is backwards compatible with NDI4, so in theory, you should be able to put the NDI4s on the 5 profile, and it should work. But given the amount of sources that you have, you may be looking at a multicast setup anyways. Theoretically, they should work. Like on paper, they should all work. But whenever somebody tells you that it's backwards compatible, you really probably should check, especially if you're using multiple brands. You really should verify for yourself that your gear is all going to be compatible across the same. Should be able to, Albert, great question, by the way. You should be able to play nicely together all on the same profile, which would be the NDI5 profile. But your results may vary because, quite frankly, there's no way we could test every combination of products out there. So you definitely need to probably take an afternoon, set up one single VLAN, a single DHCP server, and start plugging stuff into it and see how it behaves. And go slowly. Like connect one brand of devices. So put all your BirdDogs, put vMix on there. Whatever. What did you say you're using? TriCaster. So put your TriCaster on there. Put your BirdDogs on there. Keyboard, cameras, and then let it run and make sure everything's nice and smooth. And then start connecting your Panasonic, start connecting your NewTek Studio stuff, and those other items, and see what the threshold is, first of all, as in terms of data processing, but also see what, if anything, throws an error. So that's probably the easiest way to do that. I'm mostly streaming high school sports. Boom. There you go. I'm on the northeast side of Nashville. The install is at Faith is the Victory Church. Man, another church in Nashville. Faith is the Victory. That's a hymn, which I will not serenade you with. Faith is the Victory Church in Nashville. So it does have a Nashville address, eh? That's impressive. Walton Lane in Nashville. And north side. So there's a good chance I'm going to be driving right by you. I'm going to be coming down 65 and headed down to, first stop is going to be in Brentwood. And then my next stop is going to be in the Columbia area. And then the next, which is south of Franklin, right? Yeah. Yeah, so south of Spring Hill. So just off the highway in Columbia, and then back up, headed back home Sunday afternoon. This is a cool auditorium, though. I'm just looking at photos on Google. It's a pretty cool church. Looks like are they doing recent renovations, or are you just doing, oh, that's cool. They got like sound dampening and stuff too. Faith is the victory. It's a very typical late 90s, early 2000s style auditorium. High ceilings and everything. It's so cool. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Whenever somebody tells me that, I like to check that out. Faith is Victory Church in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, so you're just on the north end, and we'll be passing just right past you. You're right there on the highway. vMix is on an Intel i9 10980, 10980 XE and RTX A4000 CPU, never over 30%. Boom. And you're doing American football. That's cool. From Stockholm, Sweden? Is that a big sport over there? Or are you over here right now? Sometimes you're over here. I'll wait for Fleet Manager for updating my P120s. Yeah. I haven't heard otherwise that it's, I think the plan is still 4 weeks out or something like that, whatever 6 weeks after NAB is. So I think that's still the plan. I'll give it a try and let you know how it goes. That'd be great, Albert. Let me know. Just go slow. And, yeah, just go slow. Really looking forward to Mac compatibility for BirdDog software, especially to control PTZs in the cloud and play lists of video ads during broadcasts. So you're referring to Central. That's what you're referring to, Central. So technically, if you had a VM on that network that you're running on, Macs could be running Central 2.0 because it's just a web UI. Just go to the web UI to do it, right? So that's where you would load the videos in the generator section of Central. Then you could play all of those as individual sources, and they would output onto your network, and then you could navigate on any machine, anything that has a Chrome browser, essentially. So, yeah, we've been renovating for the last 2 years. It was built in '99. My prediction was correct. Are you going to V2 in Brentwood? No. So there's so much stuff going on in Nashville this weekend. I'm actually down there helping a church and just doing some like consultation work for them. But they, it's kind of a bizarre situation. This weekend, though, man, I tried to find a hotel last weekend for this weekend, and the closest one I could find is Columbia, which is like 30 minutes away. But so there's a huge conference going on. Well, hang on, I got it. Somebody messaged me and said this is probably why you can't find a hotel. Okay, she said, so this weekend in Nashville alone, Janet Jackson is at the Bridgestone Arena on Thursday night. Taylor Swift is at Nissan Stadium Friday through Sunday. Trevor Noah is at the Ryman on Sunday. Craft Brewers Conference at Music City Center starting on Sunday. Lipscomb University has a graduation. Belmont has a graduation, and TSU, Tennessee State University, have a graduation. And also, Oprah is the commencement speaker for the Tigers. So that's probably TSU, right? So that's probably why you can't find a spot to stay. And I wrote back and said, and I'm coming to town. So obviously that's the big buzz in the neighborhood. Yes, Central, but our production is portable sports streaming. Small network, we carry the router with us, just 2 Macs and a camera. Yes, then you would be limited. You don't have any rack space or anything like that. If you're portable production, oh man, I can't wait to go down to Nashville this weekend because I want to talk to them about dreaming this way, about doing portable productions and having like a trailer, basically, that lets you set up anywhere and do it. So pretty excited about all that. But anyways, small network with all Macs, yes, then we're going to be limited. So there are plans to take everything to Mac, but we need to get the developers to do that. You have to be an actual Swift programmer to convert it all over. So not promising anything soon because I literally do not know of a timeline set for that. But we have been doing some hiring and some shifting around of people in terms of where they're going to work and what they're going to do. And one of those things is more of a structured format for projects and projected timelines and some stuff. We can give some rough ideas, and that is coming soon in the next few months. That all that will kind of get started. So there's a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of really exciting news, just even internally, about the way that BirdDog is operating and structuring and scaling and all that. Remedy's a great example of that, where it's a collaboration, but we've been working with somebody for a while about that, and he's kind of the point man on the whole thing. And he's been bringing in the elements, the pieces, the engineers, the dev teams, the actual pieces, and like putting it all together. So this is really his brainchild, and it's fun to watch that stuff actually come about and be realized. So Taylor lived 2 doors down from my folks, and she went to my high school. Well, my goodness. Apparently you have small circles. It's not a very big sport. This is American football. Here in Sweden, streaming is my second job. Oh, nice. Very cool. Streaming, this is kind of my second job too. It is my first job, but it's like one of those things you do at work because you invented it, and so then you're the one that puts the priority behind it. So, Tim Hicks, thanks for your brain, bro. Hi, Tim. I don't know what that means, but you're welcome. I don't know what that means. But anyways, hey, how many BirdDog staff are in the U.S. and how many in Australia? There are, I think it's under, the employee count is under 50, I think. But there are 3, 10, I think there's like 10 over here in the US. And then we just shipped somebody off to, oh wait, that's not true. 11, 12 currently in the US. But one of those guys is relocating. And then we have 5 or 6 in Europe. Let me think. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, 13 in the US. Maybe like 4 in Europe. I feel like I'm missing somebody. And one guy over in Asia, and then the rest. So that's 5, 17. So there's got to be like 25 people in Melbourne. But there's a whole host of engineers that, like, that's their own department. And so those guys kind of come and go. And then there's some managers and executive level people as well. So, and then not just managers and executive people. There are finance people, there's HR, there's project managers, there's a whole, like I said, a whole host. And so I think it's 20, 25, something like that. It's a beautiful facility over there. Matter of fact, I could probably show you. So I went over there last August. It's almost been a whole year since that happened. Jeez. Man, that went by kind of fast. I can't believe we're already into May. This is the beginning of May. Where did that first half of the year go, right? Like May and June, and then we're out. Right? June is, yes, this is month number 5. Yeah. So, yeah, that went really fast, really fast. Okay, so let me see if I've got photos from the new office. That's 2 years ago. Oh, no, wait, that was 2020. Where is the office? I have like lots of, okay. So let me see which ones of these I should be sharing. That's fine. No future projects being shown. Okay, so we have this like beautiful facility. Seriously, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And we this is right when you come out of the elevator. So they're in a bit of a office complex, but it's multiple stories. So they're on the 4th floor or something like that. So this was in August. You notice there's a video wall there running. This was in August. That's just kind of their main, well, as soon as the doors open that you walk out, it's right there. And then the rest is like mostly business. This is really the only common area that's designed as like I come and sit down and wait. But the rest is desks and chairs and what have you. So this is right along the left side of that video wall. There's like a section down there. It's very sterile, but it's It's really a beautiful facility. And those desks that are just beyond those plants there are basically for when their employees from other locations around the world come to visit. There's a desk there to use it, and they've basically, it's USB-C. You plug it in, and your monitors turn on, and your USB jacks turn on, and the computer starts to charge, and it's really cool. So, bravo! This is all kind of the brainchild of Barry, who is the CFO of the company, and his team. So he had to hire some people out and make decisions and do whatever, but he's the primary focus here. This is a portion of the office that actually hasn't been expanded to yet, but it's basically the next developer section, depending on however the structure of that looks like. But this portion isn't actually being used, and you can see because there's only a couple of screens up, and nobody's actually working out of there just yet. This is a studio space. This is their studio space. So when you see Dan on camera now with the grid behind him and the plants and the tutorials that Dan does out of Melbourne, this is that room, which was not assembled when I was there, but they had just gotten that equipment in, so no harm, no foul. But they have a nice studio. And then this is the common collaboration area, so you can, you and the engineer and the PM and the executive can all go over here, sit at tables, plug in, brainstorm, do a bunch of stuff there on the whiteboards, and so that's pretty cool. It's that same area. They have these little quiet rooms, so if you're taking a conference call, most of the area is open office, and so it's all kind of together. Everybody's kind of, there are no walls. But if you need to make a call or an important meeting or a Teams meeting or something like that, and you need to shut the door, there are 3 or 4 of these, or 2 or 3 of these rooms that are available for that purpose. And you just write your name on the board. Hey, I need this at 1 o'clock or whatever, and go in there, and then you can make your call. Same thing here. That's the other room. So there's 2 of them, I believe. And then this is mostly where the offices are, where the guys are working. So if I'm looking at this correctly, it is I think the engineers are here on the left. I might be turned around, but engineers are there on the left, and then on the right there were that's Steve's desk. So technical writer, finance, HR, all those folks. And some of the marketing team work out of there too, or did at least in August, but they're still there. And then this is the last. So there's BirdDog Phil. We were running a test video on Video Wall because Dan wanted to prove that, no, it's a real thing and it works and it's great. And so he threw up a very high resolution video, and Video Wall handled it pretty nice. So we were not actually gaming, but we probably should have. So, but yeah, the facility is really cool. It means business. When you walk in there, you really do feel like, yeah, this place is legit. So love it. I love that little office. That's not little, it's huge. I love that office. I like my office too. It's pretty nice. It's been my brainchild on a budget, and it turned out pretty nice. Funny side note about this is so how the first generation of our cameras all had foam in the boxes, right? That white foam that comes in with the camera boxes. Well, we have some of it, and it's super expensive to make, and it's super expensive to ship, and it's really bad for the environment. And so we stopped making it, right? And we started doing cardboard because that's, you can recycle that. Well, anyway, we still have some of the foam for the Gen 1s that we service, and sometimes we get our product back. We need to repackage it, sell it as B stock or something like that. And so we want to put it in a proper package. So we have some of it. Well, we have 24 products that required that. So we have these mountains of styrofoam that we've been trying to find a home in our office for, because we don't want to throw it away. We also don't want to really keep it. We've been trying to decide where it goes. Well, it was in the ticketing agent office, and it kept falling over on poor Jessica. And so sometimes she would just like brush up against it and the whole thing would fall on her. Or sometimes it would just fall involuntarily, or like someone would sneeze and it would fall. And so yesterday she said, it would be great if I didn't have to work with this looming wall of foam hanging over me. And I took that to be, okay, we need to get that out of there. So we emptied out this studio because it was doing a lot of, we were housing a lot of units that needed to go back to manufacturing. And we got rid of all of those. There's a story there too. But anyways, the summary is we got rid of all of those. And then I had some space in here. And so I thought, you know what? The studio could use some sound dampening. And we got rid of all those cameras. And so I guess we could use the storage, that space now for the foam. And so now there's a looming wall of foam that's hanging up right over here that I won't show you because it's so hilarious, but it's hanging out in here. But it does seem to kind of deaden the audio. I need to check it with the NTG2 because that was the one that was causing the echo happening on the recordings. But half of the room is now full of foam, like that white styrofoam. So I think that would help with the reverb of the room, right? Other than putting up sound dampening on the walls, otherwise, this seems to be legit. And maybe what I should do is I should take pillars of it and put it around the room in various spots and then see if that absorbs the sound waves from bouncing off and coming back to the microphone. But, one day at a time, everybody, one day at a time. So I just built an NDI audio stage box for 8 audio sources and 2 outs using USB audio interface and a PC running NDI free audio. That's cool. You just built an NDI audio stage box for 8 audio sources and 2 outs using a USB audio interface and a PC running free NDI audio. Man, I need to map that out of my brain a little bit because that's first of all, very impressive. Well done. But that's very interesting to me. And if I had some free time, I would definitely probably monkey around with that. Well, if you're ever here and have, quote, free time, let me know. I'll hook you up with some good barbecue. That offer is open to Eamon as well. Good to know. I might look you up because I am in Nashville every so often now. It's probably once a month or once every 6 weeks or something like that. So might have some opportunities when the kind of newness of that trip wears, and I've got some time in the Sunday afternoons or something like that. Could check that out. I was saying thanks for your thoughts on state of Max and NDI production. It's nice to hear an industry insider. I'm flattered that you feel that way. I'm just the guy on here, so I can't believe that it's been that long since I saw you in person. It's true, Phil. Time goes along, doesn't it? We go probably a year at a time, and if I don't go to NAB, it's going to be longer than that. So I don't know when we'll run into each other next. There's talk of a European show that maybe I'll show up at, but I think the only talk about that is you and me. So has BirdDog abandoned the antiquated desktop phone concept like everyone should? I quite like a desk phone. Have we abandoned the desktop phone concept? What concept is that? In terms of like everyone should. Do you mean like phone support? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean something else like I don't know. You'll have to define that for me, Ned. How about I'm not too sure where you're going with that, but I'd be happy to. I don't see any phones on those desks. Oh. In Melbourne. Yeah, you're not going to see phones on those desks, that's for sure. They all have cell phones. That's the thing, yeah. But no, there's no desk phones at that office, that's for sure. 100%. They are hyper focused on their jobs at hand, and they have Teams. They make phone calls off of Teams. So there you go. We do have a corporate Teams account, which is, one of our systems we run. So like I was saying earlier in the show, it's a beautiful day over here in Auburn Hills, and wouldn't want to miss it. I sit in here in this kind of studio with the windows are all closed and everything. But I point a camera out at Auburn Hills from my office, which is at the front of the building, and that's what it looks like out my window. So it's the forest is starting to green up. You can see the foliage is starting to come back, and the sun is out today. Some beautiful cars sitting in the parking lot too. So, anyways, that's a PF-120 looking outside just as kind of a weather cam. So Auburn Hill, Michigan. If you're wondering where we are, that is where we're at, and that's what it looks like outside right now. Okay, I have a gift from Balu, which is a snack on stream, and I want to do that because it looks delicious. It's sitting here taunting me. So this is Snacks on Stream on May the 4th.
John's just making up stuff to start drama.
Look, I don't know.
Look at him.
Wish me luck, folks. It's my first Vegemite experience.
Final, this is like cheese flavor or something. It doesn't really look too appetizing. Good golly, this is something else, man.
Here's the thing about Pop Rocks, and I don't know if I'm the only one like this. Pop Rocks have always been a social experience for me.
I did not think that is what you were going to say. That's hilarious.
That is awful. Oh, God, that's so bad. Jeez. Holy smokes, man.
Yep. Snacks on stream today brought to you on behalf of Mr. Balu himself. We have, I believe this is Sanders Chocolate Bumpy Cake. And so pretty excited about that. I'm 100% sure that I'm going to enjoy.
John's just making up stuff to start.
Sorry about that. Didn't load my camera in the preview. There it is. Yeah, good stuff. So bumpy cake. This isn't going to be a gross John out situation unless Balu has done something to this and didn't tell me, but I'm 99% sure that I'm going to enjoy this entire thing. So thumbs up. Appreciate you, Balu. Thanks for bringing that in today. Good stuff. Hey, thanks for today. Dinner time. Of course, my fine friend from Sweden. Take care of yourself. Enjoy dinner. Have a great evening. Long live and prosper. Long. Swing and a miss on this May the 4th day. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations. It's what is it? Infinite possibilities in a paperless world. Yeesh. Good stuff. Yeah, so by the way, folks, this is supposed to be a show about NDI, but we're going to veer from that path a little bit. But the if you have questions about stuff that you're doing, or you want me to look up a ticket number, or you want me to talk about an issue that you're having, by all means, definitely throw that in the chat and we can kind of address that. This is a change to the routine here. Is I am going to bring on, back by popular demand, I'm going to bring on my buddy Jake, who will be able to talk to us a little bit about this remedy stuff. Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, John? Hey,
Not
can you hear me okay?
much. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay, so help us with the remedy announcement, because I know somewhat about what's going on, but I think you can give us a more real-world understanding of what's happening here.
Sure.
So catch us up to speed.
It's really exciting. So now, through the power of BirdDog Cloud and our wireless X120 camera, we're able to jump into this medical space where we really can stream live in real time these cameras to anywhere in the world. So these are remote viewers of everyone in the medical industry that needs to jump in and see maybe a surgery that's going on, or these conferences, or anything that needs to happen in that space where you really can't have cables lying around. So the combination of being able to use the wireless X120 with BirdDog Cloud streaming through iPads and devices to be able to get that stream out to the world is totally going to revolutionize the way that these types of productions and environments are taking place.
Yeah, so we've seen a number of these types of installations done before, where they're integrating BirdDog cameras on a wired level and trying to bring them across. So the actual complete package of remedy, what makes it different in terms of, you've talked about it being streamlined. Is the Wi-Fi function, for example, is that like a part of that critical element of, you had mentioned like less cables, less wiring, all of that? Like, talk us through a little bit about what it is that we're seeing that these sort of facilities are looking for, and what is the objective to complete? Is it just a matter of bringing people in, or is there more than that?
So there's a lot to it. So essentially, because there's only so much limited room inside either an operating room or surgeries or whatever that's going on, you really can't have people in there, let alone camera operators. And then once you realize that, hey, maybe we can use a PTZs for these types of productions, they started to realize, hey, wait a minute, we really can't even have extra cables lying around the floor due to a bunch of medical and security reasons and whatnot, and safety, and who knows about fluids and things, and the entirety of the medical world. We can't have extra things in that room that aren't necessary. So being able to have a Netgear type of wireless access point, be able to have our wireless cameras, and then the whole cloud interface, which we'll get into once Remedy starts to really open up and about how that workflow is actually obtained. But essentially being able to have operators outside the room, still using keyboards, still using the touchpads, whatever's needed inside that entire environment. So it really can scale depending on what the medical facility and operation really needs.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's good to know. One thing real quick, I think you've probably got an automatic gain element on there. So
let me see what's going on. That's web
ramping up when you talk.
NDI webcam is doing that. So let me see if I can jump on. Yeah, it is. Hilarious. So I'm doing a different workflow than normal because I'm using a different machine to move that over. But you guys know how it is.
Yep.
Poking around and experimenting. Yeah.
I'm curious about that too because.
It looks like NVIDIA webcam has an automatic level
oh my goodness,
on the video section, and I think StreamYard on the PC side. So I think StreamYard does too. So I'm going to start clicking some stuff. So let's see what happens.
Automatic levels, yeah, I see.
So I'm going to do 20 dB of gain. So I think maybe you lost me.
You're lower, but actually I had turned you down slightly in StreamYard, so I can allow it. StreamYard does it too, unfortunately, where
it does.
Yeah, you have to tell it like.
Oh, there! I see you just moved my slider. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so for me, that's 200.
Is that better?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely clearer for sure. There's not.
We don't like that.
I don't detect any ambient sound like it was before. So yeah, you're good.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah. So okay. So tell us about the workflow for Remedy there because when it was announced. I don't see a lot of BirdDog logos plastered all over the announcement or whatever. So like, tell us a little bit from what you at least understand of the partnership.
So this is another arm of BirdDog, essentially being able to use all the technology and the power inside of what we have to deliver more revolutionary solutions specific to these markets, right? So Remedy is clearly specific towards this medical vertical. It definitely will work other places, I think, as you mentioned before. Essentially, it's just easy, simple to use, real-time streaming, start, ready to go type of plug-and-play operations is what we're going for. Because time is of the essence in those facilities, and when that video crew needs to roll up and they need to stream that video to said doctor in London because the production or the operations happening in the US, or they have somebody in Australia that needs to give, some sort of insight on what's going on to other parties in the rest of the world. Being able to just quickly turn on that system, fire up the cameras, have that awesome battery pack for that X120 to be able to just, get everything streamlined for, unfortunately, I know that surgeries can take a while. So being able to have this reliable stream coming through a platform that's known for its broadcast and its quality is truly incredible.
Yeah, I was curious when they announced the battery pack element, just because for this instance, like some surgeries are 45 minutes to an hour. Some of them are like 6 hours, like they go on and on and on. And those are probably the ones where you have to have the specialist come in. And so,
no, you really do.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know how that works at a production level. Like if you have battery packs that are available. Okay, let's say we want to do this without plugging it in. Sorry, without plugging in the battery pack, or without plugging it into the DC outlet. So
when I was in the rental world, we were renting out battery packs left and right. So people were renting out everywhere from the 48 watt-hour batteries to 96, 148, which depending on the camera and the devices that you plug into it, uses up a certain amount of power. Right. But from our estimates that Dan was giving us over at NAB, like a 48 watt-hour battery is going to be roughly about maybe 3 hours And so from there, you can scale 96 would be roughly 6, and I would assume that a 148 would get somewhere up to like 7 to 9 hours. Now, I haven't personally done this test, and this is a test that I used to do in my facilities. You know, you plug in your C300 Mark IIs, you add your Atmos cameras, you do everything, D-tap battery into that battery pack, because we needed to know how many batteries does the client need, right? So we haven't personally done this test at BirdDog yet, or maybe the guys in Australia have. But I know that's something that I'm going to be doing once I get my X120 in my office.
Is that peak performance, or is that out of the box, like the first time you use the battery, we're expecting 9 hours, or is that something that's a repeatable, like we can guarantee that on a battery for a year?
So I mean,
wear and tear on it.
That totally depends on the battery manufacturer. I mean, everything from Core, IDX, who is it, the gold mount battery guys, everyone who makes some sort of V mount is going to be, you know, able to be used in the system, right? So you get to go with your reputable battery company, right? So some aren't made as well as others, and you know, sometimes you have bad batches. So what we would do in our production house is about every 3 to 6 months, we would run and retest our batteries. You know, we fold them, fully charged, fold up all the way down to the end, see how long that was recording. So that way we know how long the battery actually lasted in a production. And then we sorted those serial numbers, and everything below, you know, 2 hours was cut from the unit, because we didn't want to rent that out to our customers. Right. So you have to be able to know, you know, what your inventory is, right?
I'm curious. I should look at the website, because curious to know about the mount. Like, it would be interesting to me if the mount had 2 battery spots where you put one in and you run it for an hour and a half. You know you've got a 2-hour battery. You run it for an hour and a half. You snap another one in, and then you can remove the other one.
Well, they have those, so they're really cool. They're what is it? I forget what they're called. They're maybe T plates or something like that. They're V-mount extenders. So essentially, it looks like a T. One side goes on, and then you have 2 batteries on each end. So when one fails, it continuously uses the other one and goes through. So you get twice as amount of battery. But I don't remember what those are called.
Let me look. I'm sure. I said it out loud, and I was like, you know what? I'm sure somebody has already thought of this.
Because I remember on those, on like the Sony ENG cameras, that's what you do to, you know, when they didn't make the big batteries. That's what you had to do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's got to be something here. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Sorry, my brain is saying things out loud that would be funny for everybody watching. Yeah, so it's like a dual mount. It would be similar.
Yeah, some dual mount V mount battery backing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's cool. At least if there's an option out there, then then that sort of production level, like, I think that really opens it up, especially if we could test it. But that really opens that option for the battery operated Wi-Fi thing to really be a run and gun, a workflow opportunity. It just needs to be spelled out a little in terms of, like, again, context, which is kind of part of the portion of this show today. It's like, tell me how you're using the gear, like why you would use that and not something else or whatever. And most of it is, flexibility of NDI, and it's a single switch, single power source, all that sort of good stuff.
But
which is great.
This X120 thing is really incredible, because like now for like all of my event production staff and everybody that is running, gunning, and setting up events with their PTZs, like what we used to do just with like Teradek wireless units before we ran cable is we attached the wireless unit, sent that back to production, so that way, hey, where do we want to place this camera? Nobody's in the venue yet. Hey, can we actually move over XYZ seats and place this in a more optimal position for the lens, for the camera operator, for the production quality? So now that we have some wireless PTZ cameras, I can just throw an X120 on a pair of sticks, on a dolly, and literally roll that thing around the production, just place some access points around as a part of the whole setup procedure, which you would be doing anyway. And then that way you can optimally place your Wi-Fi access points and your cameras specific to where the production is. And then when it's time and you want to use this over PoE and Ethernet, then that's when you tape down your Cat6 cables and you run and make the optimal path from camera back to production base or wherever that switch is.
Right.
So I mean, in all the conversations I've had so far, it's a combination of, for at least for those event producers, like get the camera in the location, stream that over HX, and get that into the video department. Then when it's time to, hey, is this a mission critical camera where I can't replace the battery during the production, and I know that it's going to be a 6-hour rehearsal before it starts? Okay, I have to run PoE to this device, or I have to find an AC outlet so I can use that DC, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm still like wrapping my brain around a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because the network conversation's constantly bouncing around. We've said and done specific things, and well, we didn't at first, and then we did, and now it's like widening that conversation a fair bit. So it's an interesting concept to carry around, like a unified SSID, like MIMO 2x2 system in your gear.
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't need any wires for your 3 cameras and a keyboard rig, you know?
Right.
It's not that you're not even trading the equivalency. I mean, you are, but you're not. Shoot. Yeah, let me think this through.
It's going to get really interesting. And then, I mean, you know as well as I that as soon as this gear gets in the hands of our production teams, like, and everyone that uses BirdDog gear, they're going to be coming to us and say, look at what I'm doing with this, right? One of my friends, Igor, like, he put the PF 120 in like a robot arm, and had, you know, it was that theater production up in Boston, and like things that like he's doing with NDI and the whole production and where he's taking things in the whole theater and performance art space is incredible. And it's like even he's having eye-opening productions values towards me and vice versa, and it's able to go back and forth. So it's like, I mean, I can't wait to see what he's going to do with these X120s and where you can place that in those kind of scenarios as well, right?
Yeah, that'll make a big difference. That's one of the struggles with a couple of the places I've been working with, just kind of on the side, is I want to bring these things in NDI, but I almost desperately need it to be like I can't run another cable up to the stage.
No, that's exactly right. You know, they are, you know, the IT department has already put in some access points, set up an SSID for that NDI network, have that camera that, hey, maybe there is an AC port right on the wall because there used to be some sort of other device there, right?
Yeah.
Speaker, like an old speaker or something like that. Or even if it is batteries, have like the local crew or the kids in the high school be able to change the battery packs for the production, right?
Yep.
And then have this whole complete operation, at least in that kind of space.
It's, man. Anyways, I feel like
the conversations
they
get really exciting, right?
It's exciting stuff. It's going to be very broad in terms of like what it is that people are going to be doing with it, and always makes me curious is like, man, what unique situations are we going to find ourselves in with the way that we envision? I ask this about every product we make, but it's like how we envision the product to be used is not necessarily the way the customer is going to see the use cases, because their vision is more boots on the ground granular than ours is, where we're working in a abstract concept of we envision this to go into hospitals, or we envision this in a conference room or something like that, whereas somebody's gonna be like, no, I put this in a waterproof bubble and we put it, you know, I talked to one guy, he was like, yeah, I'm putting this on an underwater it's like a submergible, and it has a tether on it, so he can run a hard line to it. So he's running PoE over the tether into this, like, it's not a submarine necessarily, but it was basically like a robot.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I have some cameras going into one of my favorite aquariums right down the street from me.
Nice.
And we were talking about, you know, how do we get these waterproofed? So they're doing some DotWorks cages, and things like that for like the sea otter exhibit, and I think the coral reef and the there's a bunch of really cool things. So I'm really curious about that, because if we can get a camera down below that's not a waterproof one but still have that tether going up, I need to know that solution.
Yeah, well, that's all it was basically just a cap. Like in this instance, it was a motorized, like actual robot,
Right.
but it's tethered to the boat, and so they're controlling it. But there's a huge long tether
Right.
that goes out, so they can go down. And in that bundle that goes down there are like 20 Ethernet cables, and so they can plug any of those in and fire
Right.
it up, and then just point the camera the way that they want it to, mount it inside the unit. But
Sure.
that was all it was, really, is
That's
the whole
awesome.
network infrastructure's on the ship. So, yeah. Anyways, interesting stuff, interesting ideas, and I'd be very curious to know. Obviously, the Wi-Fi thing's not going to work underwater.
No.
But yeah, these lightweight, these HX3s. Like it's funny because one of the churches I was working with was like, man, we just really need the ability to like throw cameras in places that are inaccessible, and I was like, well. We just launched something that would basically do what you're asking.
Yep.
I was like, I don't have one yet, so I can't speak too much about it, but it's on its way. So that's that's on the horizon. I think there's a lot of people waiting in two regards. They're waiting because they're excited about the new product, but they're waiting to see performance compared to the full NDI wired version.
Sure.
And what the HX3 version looks like, compared. So not only are we talking latency and Wi-Fi and all of that, but we're also talking about actually paralleling it with the rest of the system, because the shots that I really need, for example, are the ones of bands or ministers or whatever who are walking around on stage. Well, those ones cannot really be out of sync with the full NDI stuff. But if it were like, B-roll shots, if it's like audience members or drums or guitars or whatever it is, that some of that stuff is not as mission critical, because people understand on video things are not perfectly lined up, and so drums maybe not, but people playing guitar or whatever and having close-up shots of that might be a
and
you can get away with.
Depending on the type of production, all you need to do is just delay up until your most delayed or latent video.
Yeah.
So if you know that your last video is 4 frames and everything else is coming in, 1 frame, 2 frame, up into that, you just have to delay those sources to that final maximum, and then everything's in sync, right?
Yeah, just
So
link it up to the low or highest common denominator in this instance.
right, exactly. So if your X120s are coming in and maybe they're 3 frames because of whatever the latency, network hops, and Wi-Fi switches or whatever it is, if you know that's coming in 3-4 frames, then hey, your full bandwidth NDI is in at roughly 2. Then just delay those streams a little bit, if that makes sense for that part of the production.
Yeah, for that, and that's the subjective piece where people have to answer that question for themselves. It's not something BirdDog can answer for you. But it's like, that's really up to you as to what's acceptable and what's not, and that's a subjective topic. So you'll have to make that call for yourself. I was just going to mention Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, what's going on? He's jumped in here. Besides TriCaster, what's the most common hardware video switcher used for NDI workflows? What do you think, Jake?
Well, 4A just announced a new NDI switcher, which is really exciting. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, Filippo got a chance to hang out at their event at NAB where they announced the switcher. So that one's really exciting. Other video switchers, obviously, we all love in vMix. People use Livestream Studio a lot. And then pairing with all the Scarhoy controllers and everything like that, you really can make a really powerful NDI system, even with devices that don't necessarily use and ingest NDI directly.
Yeah. I don't know if you consider vMix a hardware solution?
Depends. You need a computer to run it.
Yeah.
No, it really depends. So essentially what we're running into is there are manufacturers that are starting to jump on board to this whole hardware NDI switcher combo.
Yep.
Like the 4A, which is really exciting. But always, you could take a Blackmagic switcher or any hardware switcher, just combo that with BirdDog converters in decode mode and pass that SDI around. or HDMI. So, I mean, I have a lot of clients that are using, 810 switchers, 810 minis, or even the ISO Extremes and the large ones to just offload their NDI into a physical switcher. So that way their team is used to what they're using. Using a computer on the network like multi-view to create some extra multi-views that maybe ATEM doesn't provide, or if you need customs per down the chain in production. Then that's when you subscribe more NDI streams to that multi-view computer, and you get to push that wherever it needs to. So yeah, I mean, I think at the end, this might be crazy, but I think at the end of the day, every hardware switcher is an NDI switcher, depending on the pieces that you have to get into it. Now, obviously, we would all prefer it to be an Ethernet cable connection in, but I don't necessarily see hardware switchers getting a 10 gig NIC really anytime soon to handle that type of input. So what do we do in the interim? In the interim, for those broadcast facilities, they have ROS consoles and controllers and interfaces and everything like that there's already in the production. And what I've been finding from traveling all over and talking to the entire BirdDog community, at least these broadcasters, everyone has an open gear frame that's not even close to half full. They have maybe one or two slots that are currently being used. So every single one of those ROS switchers, or every single person that has an open gear frame, can now offload and onboard SDI to and from NDI, right? And that's what we're doing here at BirdDog. At the end of the day, is getting that IP on and off the network as best as we can, in the highest quality that we can, and up to the broadcast standards for our entire industry.
Yeah, a lot of our industry ends up being about bridging over existing infrastructure into the NDI realm. Like, it's great. It was a great idea to start down that realm, honestly, like as the original, and not try and do cameras out of the gates, because studio and mini essentially. Yeah. It was a great concept to do that, mostly because that infrastructure is already there, and so we want to get it over to NDI and then show the flexibility of NDI, and then you can start building NDI products that are generating NDI themselves, like a camera, and then putting them on the network as well. But you have to establish the protocol in the existing infrastructure first before you can kind of make yourself, a market for increasing that workflow. And when people then realize, oh, this is way more flexible than SDI installation, then it becomes, not. And again, you start splitting hairs, because you talk about, oh, well, it's it's not as fast as BNC or SDI, but in terms of latency. But yes, but are the advantages of NDI outweighing the latency, the frame or two that you're getting with the NDI encode? Because if that's the subjective question that the actual production is going to have to answer. If IMAG is everything, for example, then it obviously doesn't make any sense to introduce latency. But most of the time, IMAG is not king. Sometimes it is. Some divisions it is, like some specific install groups where it's like all house of worship, and all they care about is capturing what's happening on stage and putting it back up on the screens.
As fast as possible.
I understand why that's mission critical, but for a lot of folks, like doing recording and stuff like this, I line up the audio in vMix. I haven't had to do it in a long time. I did it once, but the latency is not super noticeable. The latency actually happens when I send it up to YouTube, because that's where the lag ends up happening. And that's one of the things that people talk about here is, oh, well, there's 20-second delay. It's like, yeah, well, it could be a lot longer given some of the services that we've used. Jeremy likes the Open Gear shout out.
I love Open Gear. It's great.
I did pull up the video for the HVS 190S, which is labeled on the 4A website as the new video switching product. And so I might be able to throw that up here if we want to watch that. But Montana posted here, JVC just showed off a new purpose-built vMix box, much like a TriCaster at NAB. So let me punch that in here.
Yeah, let's check that out.
JVC vMix box NAB 2023. Let's see what comes up under that search. And while I'm searching, Jake is going to play us some tunes. interesting. So they've built a 2U rack unit. It's called Connected Cam Studio. Let me pull it up. Broadfield has a news article. Broadfield Distributing is they're our friends over on the East Coast.
Yep.
And they have an article about JVC announces new entry-level solutions at NAB. Looks like they've got a PTZ controller, like a joystick, which does Visca, UDP, Pelco D, Pelco P, RS422, 485, 232, and IP, whatever that means. So probably Visca IP. Supposed to be available.
IP. They do their own thing.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that control method. However, the one that I think is the big deal here. So they got two. Oh, they have like some Stream Deck items and whatever they're launching. But the one that I think is the big head turner here, there's an 8 NDI and 4 SDI input studio switcher powered by vMix. Let me see if I can find something a little more official. This is called Connected Cam Studio by JVC. And I'll throw this up on if they have us. Connected Cam Studio features. Ah, there you go, JVC. Good for you. Video playback is disabled by the video owner. Well, that's unfortunate. Wait, it was just a video. Oh, watch it on YouTube, it says. Okay. And of course, B&H wants to run an advertisement. So let's see. Because this is a cool little announcement. So, all right, let me set this up.
So you said it has a PTC controller on it?
It has vMix installed, so it's a digital PTZ. But then they announced a PTZ controller as well. So that looks like what the major announcement is. And so I'm really interested in this because, as you all know, my vMix machine is just a little tiny computer, and it would be really neat to see what their purpose-built unit is,
right? And
how it is that they're promoting it. So let me jump back to vMix here. And man, there's a lot of things going on here. Okay, so back to vMix. I want to show this guy, and I want to be sure that you guys can hear that audio. All right, let's see if this works. Whoa. Sorry.
Got that.
I don't know if that's the computer glitching. It's YouTube. I'm very impressed with their marketing. I think that. Sorry, let me get you back in here, Jake. I'm very impressed with their marketing. It's very, very trendy. Well done.
Yeah.
It's basically a 2U box. I mean, Jeremy makes a case here. He says, well, basically, it looks like a Wirecast gear.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a vMix version of that. Connected Cam Studio is the claim, and I'd love to see its performance base, whatever that is, because I'm all about, as everybody knows, I'm all about the buy a thing to do the thing. Don't buy a thing to do 10 things because they won't do anything very well. So I love it when people come out with things like this where, great, let's see how well it does with 8 NDI sources and 4 SDI sources, because if it operates optimally, there's probably a place in it, depending on what the budget is, there's probably a place in it, because we could all use a tailored vMix machine. It comes with a vMix license, evidently, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, just on the spec sheet here. Let me just roll up to it. Yoink. PVC announced. So it comes with, it's a 2 RU unit, comes with one 3G SDI output, comes with 4 SDI bidirectional connections. That's cool. 4 DisplayPort outputs. Holy smokes, that's probably for multi-viewers. 1 HDMI output. Here's that thing though. 1 gigabit Ethernet connection.
Doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make very much sense. Windows 11 available in May. Up to 8 NDI inputs and 4 SDI inputs.
Is it
vMix 4K license?
Is it and or for the SDI?
It does not say and or. It says up to 8 NDI inputs and 4 SDI inputs. But what does up to mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if I use 4 NDI inputs, does that or if I use 6 NDI inputs, am I only allowed to use 2 SDI inputs? I can't imagine that's the case, but it's still kind of a cool idea. It's why I admire guys like Tom St. Clair who build vMix machines for a living, and sells them to schools, and they have great success. And he knows his stuff so well that he's just like, yep, it just works. I know it's going to work. I know what I'm buying. I know what I'm doing. So,
There's a lot of settings
like
under
that.
the hood. You know what I mean? Between BIOS and Ethernet advanced NIC settings and everything under the hood. Once you even get Windows installed on it to run vMix properly, there's a lot to it. So exactly, the guys like Tom and Stream Dudes and everybody who's making those vMix boxes that know what they're doing is aiding the industry completely. So
for sure. I love that. That's why I kind of love, although it's extremely expensive, I love the TriCaster just because they built it for this purpose. And so it's not like you're going to have a bottleneck with this device. It's going to be something else, right?
Yep.
And it's that concept of, like, we built the camera. Generally with support tickets, it's usually not the camera. It's usually something in between the camera and the whatever it is that's decoding it, or the thing that's decoding it. And so it makes life a lot easier when you buy something that's made for this purpose. Again, instead of, like, my hesitation with what I'm doing with vMix right here and Wirecast and all those softwares I've installed over the ages is, I bought this machine. I don't know if it's good enough. Like, I looked at the tech requirements, but we all know those are also built in a bubble. And so it's like, what do I need to spend to make this work correctly? Well, I'd rather go to somebody who, like Tom, who could build it, or Stream Dudes or whatever, that could build it from the ground up and know exactly what's required and how much it's going to cost. And then I'm not going to have to worry about that because, no, I had this purposefully built for this version of vMix. Same thing with TriCaster. You buy one, no, the software was built for this, and they know what the hardware is out in the field. And so it's not like they're going to write a piece of software. Well, you'd hope not, I guess. I don't know this for sure, but they wouldn't write a piece of software that couldn't operate on the hardware that they've been selling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they'd have to come out with a new generation of the TriCaster, which is TC2 and TC2 Elite and all those. So, John, I'm getting an echo from your voice. Is it that you're hearing my voice through Jake's, or are you actually here? I'll listen to me on YouTube. Am I actually echoing?
I don't know, because you're not coming out of my speakers today.
Yeah, I do hear it somewhere. Maybe it's coming back.
Is there a vMix audio input that's on?
Let me get rid of this microphone. Maybe it's feeding. Is that any better? Nope, I can still hear myself. It's very faint. Like, it doesn't bother me at all, but but yeah, there is a slight echo. But how are you feeding my audio to you? You have an earpiece?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, earpiece. Yeah, some little Shure single in-ear headphone, which are great.
There is a slight chance I'm picking that up, but it's unlikely. Let me just check vMix real quick. Good call, Frank. Let me look into it. All right, my only audio channel, I've only got one audio channel on right now, so unless it's my microphone picking up my own cans, but those are not very loud. Let's try this. No, I've turned them off and I can still hear it. So anyway, it's not the end of the world. Same. TriCaster is almost always what I install for clients these days. It just works. That's a big statement in this industry, saying something just works. I've realized how careful I am when I say that phrase, and so if somebody tells me that has some weight behind it, because I have a TC1, and it's a refurb TC1, but it does pretty much just work. It's running out of memory quickly, because if you load more than 2 or 3 sessions, like if you save them and try to recall them, you run out of physical hard drive space. You run out pretty fast. So I've got to expand that, but that's actually an expandable option. So
oh, cool.
It's not the end of the world. Yeah, Jeremy also does not understand the NDI. This is probably NDI HX2.
That's what I was thinking. Is that if it's 8, well, then that's the thing about HX and why full bandwidth NDI is great, is that it's easier to process on that system computer, because HX is going to require your GPU, and you're going to be using GPU sources to decode that stream into your vMix production. With
That's interesting.
full bandwidth, it's dealing more on CPU, or it can handle the iframes better because it's not like a H.264 compressed stream, so it doesn't necessarily have to unpack it before it has to restream it. So just something to be aware about, and why full bandwidth is great is that I can get like maybe 8 to 16 sources on a 10 gig NIC for full bandwidth, but I do not know if I can do that many HX streams. So
see, that's so funny to me, because the conversation kind of stops with a lot of, at least in the consumer level conversation. So, well, obviously I would do HX because I could do as many sources as I want. It's like, no, not necessarily.
No,
because
H.264 is way harder to handle than the iframe Speed HQ codec. So it ends up if you're sending HX around for different decoders around the building, absolutely, it's great for the IT department. It's a lot less bandwidth on the network. But if you're going to a single machine that needs to input a bunch of sources, I don't think that everyone's going to be able to automatically be able to get 15 more sources just because your bandwidth is 10 to 1 instead of right. So
it's not a 1-to-1 trade, especially if this because you can do GPU decode with full, but
still that's easier for NVIDIA and the graphics cards to handle an iframe incoming than dealing with a whole compressed H.264.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's good to know. Okay, that just makes a great use case for.
So once Silicon 2 publicly comes out, and we really get it on all our cameras, realistically you can set up a vMix machine, have one session pull all the full bandwidths, and then one session pull all the HXs, and literally see stack it up. How far can you go? I haven't personally done that because I got to get all my cameras up to date on Silicon 2. Some I keep on beta, some I keep on production firmware. So once that's all public, and then that's one of the things I'm going to take care of. I'll be good.
Ooh, and I jumped over this by accident. I didn't mean to. Jeremy says, by the way, happy
Star Wars Day.
Happy Star Wars Day, Jeremy.
Don't fail me again.
I have my original VHS behind me.
Nice.
Those are great.
That's pretty cool.
I don't have a VHS player anymore, but I have to keep those on display.
Yep, you got to keep them up there. Ian says that he's using a Blackmagic ATEM HD Constellation. I think I've used one of those. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I forget. It wasn't the Constellation. I forget what one that the church I'm working with has one, and the button choice seems odd to me, but they're like squishy. They're like squishy soft buttons, kind of like the keyboard. But when you're watching a multi-viewer and you're calling cameras, like a click would be probably a little bit more obvious. But I don't know if everybody would enjoy that or not. But I'll find out this weekend because I'll be down there and I'll find out which exactly one it was.
Oh, cool.
That JVC connected studio requires an NTP server. I didn't see that. Did you see that?
It didn't say it requires it. I know they use the NTP server in accordance with their SRT in a way to synchronize their infield cameras back to home base. So that's pretty cool. But yes, the P200 just has the NDI Genlock switcher feature. Excuse me, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, timing in the NDI world is different than timing in the SDI world. So, like, people are used to the Genlock conversation and basically locking all their sources to the same.
Correct.
It's different in the IP realm where they're generating their own timestamps, and you can have them all look at the same camera, the same timestamp off the same camera, and then it ships the package when they see that, the timestamp come out of that camera. So they're all locked into the same. But it's a different concept as to how to do Genlock. It's not true Genlock like it is that if you were referring to an SDI camera. That's just because it's an IP protocol. This would only make sense if it were a Linux box, in my opinion. I don't know if it is. Oh no, it says Windows 11. So the camera control or the central command or whatever. Hey BirdDog team, in my last streaming there was a problem with frames lost exclusively when I did a PIP picture-in-picture with a screenshot on another PC and a 200. The strange thing is that only lost frames in the BirdDog P200 and the rest was all okay, all in vMix. Any ideas?
I would say, how are you making the picture-in-picture, and what is the network setting of that P200? And do you have that pulled up anywhere else? So is it pulled up in Cam Control, or is it pulled up in NDI Studio Monitor or another source on the network? Because usually I see dropping frames when multiple sources are pulled at once, right?
Yep. Are you doing something like, the question is, are you doing something like this? So vMix, you can layer, right? And so I've got Auburn Road PF120 on top of the P4K, but I didn't really do anything other than I went into the layering view and dropped it in there. And I can move it around and edit it, but just for this demonstration's sake. But I don't see any sort of issues with NDI sources on top of each other causing that issue.
No.
But it's a pretty simple thing to do. So if you're seeing drop frames on the 200, I would highly suspect that you would need to investigate the network activity coming across. Are you doing a screen capture on the same machine you're running vMix out of? Because that will also play a factor as to and are you doing an NDI screen capture, so screen capture from NDI, or are you doing screen capture from vMix? Because those are two different processes. Honestly, I find it a lot more stable doing screen capture from NDI tools and bringing that in as an NDI source, which is what, where's that shot? It's this shot. Oops, I should close this down. So this shot is at NDI tools screen capture coming in as an NDI source into vMix. And then my picture-in-picture, which is me in the corner, is that 4K that's layered on top of that source. So...
Can you pull up your vMix window? Because there's some options inside when you add a new NDI source. I believe it's FEIM and a buffer size as well when you create a new NDI source that you can select.
If you're saying create a new NDI source here.
Right down at the bottom.
Yep.
You have a couple toggles, right?
Yeah. Let me make this a little bigger so everybody can kind of see it here. I'll bump you off for a second. You're still here, Jake. You're just not on camera.
So yeah, that FEIM was added by vMix for dealing with dropped frames or sources that are coming in without trying to handle that stream a little better. And then what's that next one? Increase
buffer size.
So I would try to go in between both of those on that source. I would make sure that you're only pulling that source in once and creating a new picture-in-picture from like a blank input. So that way you're just reusing the source that you already have in the system rather than adding it in again.
So with that statement, though, let me bring up...
But again, I'm not 100% on the back end of vMix. Right.
So this window is where I do the picture-in-picture stuff, right? So it's P4K source. I've selected this top one here or this one here.
Yep.
And I've selected that whichever source that I want to put on there. If you want to move it around, you can do that here on the position and edit and do whatever there. But for just the picture-in-picture stuff, I have my sources coming in one, just like Jake said, they're coming in one spot, and then that's a weird. Look what it's doing to my camera up in the corner, because I've taken that source and put it in here again,
Yep.
But so it's layering in the picture-in-picture on which is this source. It's just what that's the original source right there. So it's an odd change. Anyways, but yeah, just right there. But all the sources are only coming in one time. They're not coming in multiple places and multiple times. They're just coming in once, and then I'm building each of the scenes kind of how I want them. I don't know if that's useful at all. We can actually find out here. So screen capture NDI tools. My setup involves using a router as a manager, connecting the PC to it with a 10 gig screen capture inputs on a 1 gig port and the 1 gig switch for the P200s. I'm not saturating the 1 gig switch at all. Everything is managed on a 10 gig router. So then if you're dropping frames with the 200 coming into, is vMix running on a 1 gig connection? Because for the record here, I'm running on a 2 gig connection because I'm running dual trunked, basically lagged over fiber into my 4250. And so because I can't do more than 3 full NDI sources without the NIC card on my 1 gig NIC card having issues.
Right.
So, and just like keeping up, it is a 1 gig port, but it just can't keep up. And so I have 2 gigs, and that seems to settle everything down.
Cool.
I hope that's relatively useful. Trading more CPU instead of more network. Yeah, essentially. That's the HX versus full conversation. Did that list what GPU that it had installed? It did not. That website. I'll jump over there. JVC announces. No, it doesn't say which GPU is installed, but this is not their website. This is Broadfield's website. So let me see if I go to the pro.jvc. Oh, no. That website has a video that is not available on their website for some reason. The video they made isn't available on their website. You have to go to YouTube to watch it. That's all it was, but I think that might just be a technical error, not some sort of purposeful glitch. NDI tool versions numbers differ from the NDI protocol numbers. The only way to check what really transmitted with the protocol is NDI analysis. Could the echoes be Jake's PA and returning? Possibly. I think he's wearing an earpiece, so it might be, but I don't know. We don't know.
No, I don't think it is because my mic is barely picking that up.
Yeah,
but you can mute me if that helps it.
No, I don't think it's necessary. It's not super distracting for me. So, and I'm the only one that matters here.
Yep.
Comment in the Facebook group in more detail.
Cool.
So yeah, if we need to follow up with that. But I would seriously investigate that NIC card. This is generally why a lot of vMix forums just start at the 10 gigs at this point and get that into a. Now I don't have that, by the way, but I have dueling NIC cards that go over for fiber, and that seems to. I was having drop frames, and that seems for the most part to clear it up.
And as found by our buddy Josh Bernstein, there's some 10 gig NIC issues on Windows 10, so that have been resolved in Windows 11. So I know that's a hard thing to get over and to update for most systems, especially when things have been rock solid besides a 110 gig Ethernet thing. But there are some errors in Windows 10 that have not been backfilled or fixed and is not on the roadmap to. So, and that's a Windows 10 thing. So
that's interesting. That's not on the roadmap for them to fix.
No, at least that's what Josh was telling us, and that
interesting.
It's just not.
Yeah, he would know.
Yeah, that dude would know. So if it is a 10 gig machine, then update it. But additionally, like we'll have to do this on another stream sometime. But I went through like advanced Ethernet settings. Like I was on like some Steam forum or whatever, and those gamers want to do ultra low latency video and network information as fast as possible, right? They're gamers, and that's how they're making their living, right? So there was a forum post about jumping into the advanced configuration settings, and even though like I turned on or off flow control in my switch or turned off green Ethernet on my switch, those options and toggles were still on inside the NIC configurations. So I personally have to go in and dive and do like my own testing, but so far over the past, I think 2 weeks or whatever, everything has been coming in a lot better since I have adjusted those settings.
Yeah, so that we 100% need to have a show about that, because I'm all about honing those.
Because there are guys out there that, I mean, once we have this show and talk about it, I think we'll be able to really, like, I only have so much time in the day to poke around with things, because, again, I have some BirdDog stuff that I got to take care of.
I understand
that. But, you know, in efforts to aid my clients' productions and things like that, and questions that have popped up, like this one, hey, why is this receiving incorrectly? Maybe energy efficient Ethernet is still turned on that port, so there might be something that's getting in the way.
There's some default stuff that's enabled just as is that are just big no-nos for the entire NDI. But it flies in the face a little bit as to the, like, hey, this is supposed to be super easy and just shouldn't have all these, you know, you shouldn't have to get into the advanced settings of the NIC card, but I'm sorry, of the NIC. But and Jeremy points out that I'm calling it NIC card and incorrectly saying it, and Jake is the one that's doing it. But what I actually mean when I say NIC card is network interface card. That's literally what I'm trying to say.
Just like the ATM machine.
Yes, exactly. ATM machine. ATM, it's ATM. Just saying machine twice, just so you know. They say
we have to differentiate the robots.
Yes. Yeah,
they're coming up all over the place now.
Oh, I know. That way, throw off all of the. You guys know this is a real show, by the way, because I fumble and blunder through a whole bunch of things, and so.
Yeah, we're not AI. Not yet.
100% seeing somebody really doing this. In the Facebook group, a colleague told me that Windows 10 has a conflict with the 10 gig cards. I'm not sure about the compatibility of NDI vMix with 11. Is it advisable to change?
Yes.
So Jake, you're running 11, right?
I am. I'm running on 11 on two different machines, both X299 and then a regular 8-core. So, everything is streaming fine. You know, I mean, I personally think I have some Dante PCIe cards that need some firmware updates because of some other things, but other than that, vMix is streaming great.
Nice. Yeah, I do know there are more and more folks that are using it on 11. So NetHev says he's on 11. He did it last night. So I probably need to go across there too. It'd probably fix some of my network issues. But, you know.
It gets used to the UI change, you know. I feel like I just got used to Windows 10, and then they're like, here's a whole new thing to deal with. So, but again, it aids in the production and whatnot. So, you know, wanted to test that out.
Truthfully, I don't interface with, like when I'm running this show, it's Chrome and vMix. And so the actual Windows interface, I'm not caring too much about. But it is hard to leave the thing that you're finally comfortable in. And then for them to change it again. You know, kind of like, that's not necessary. I actually think they'd be more successful if they were to create some familiarity with their product. But it's constantly changing, and so it's kind of hard to get comfortable and figure out what you like. And anyway, that's just me. Very cool. Well, I've kept you on here for like an hour, dude. And I'm happy to keep you on for longer, but I do know that you're supposed to be relaxing today. So
I'm going to jump off.
Probably should send you on your way.
Sounds great, guys.
But it's always a blast to have you here, man. Thank you so much for volunteering and hanging out a little bit and playing some tunes. And we need to do a studio tour of yours. So whenever you get confident,
I gotta definitely clean up some stuff, just organize some cables, but not too much because you guys got to know how real.
It's a real deal. I got a stack of foam next to me right now. So
nice.
Yeah, this is how things are done in the real world. At least my world. I don't know if it's real, but it's at least mine.
For sure.
So there you go. But have a great afternoon, man. Take care.
Sean.
It's morning over there, but take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you next time.
Talk soon. Thanks, everyone.
Later, man. Okay, so we are on to the end of this show. Basically, special shout out to Mr. Jake. He always does me a favor and comes on the show, keeps things spicy. So always a pleasure to have him around, and he jumps on. So hey, awesome network information. Thanks. Oh, you're very welcome, Laura. I'm glad you feel like it's useful. I find it, actually, I pulled up the advanced, while we were talking about it, I pulled up the properties and went to the advanced tab, and there are all the things that you basically have to go through and check. So we will definitely check that out. You're very welcome. We'll definitely check that out and see if I can improve things. Who knows? It's always nice to make incremental improvements, and that's what we do on this show. Slowly evolving into something that we think is better. So, hey, you guys rock. May the 4th be with you. May the 4th be with you as well. Appreciate that. I have let's see, this sound effect, which I really like.
I have spoken.
Which I think is also very, very topical. So, indeed, I have spoken on these things. Gracias. Oh, you're very welcome. Hopefully you have found some of that useful. Hey, if you get your hands on one of those JVC boxes, let us know. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of in the market for a different vMix machine. It would be great to get something in the office that's a bit robust and could support the show a little bit better. But that 1 gig card, if they have USB-C, is there a picture of the back of that interface? Let me look. I just want to know, like, what connections do they have, right? Because Connected Cam Studio. I'm actually quite interested in seeing more about this. Connected Cam Studio by JVC, because it looks, but I don't want to go to the JVC website because it doesn't really have anything on there that shows me like any pictures or anything. It just shows a video. But I want to see the interface. Maybe there are some photos on like a Google photo. I'm pulling up, when I click on Connected Cam, I'm pulling up a lot of their cameras, you know, and I was thinking that this is their most recent launch from NDI or from NAB, and I was wondering why they don't have any pictures of the I/O on the back. A lot of photos of the front, but nothing of the back. I just want to see what the interfaces are. All right, well, I'll keep poking around and see what I can find. Maybe JVC Europe site. Nope, nothing there. Bummer. Well, yes, if I get my hands on one or if I get to see one, then I will 100% update because I'd be very interested in knowing a little bit more about that. Love it when people make products that are tailored for the thing that they're trying to do. So all the power to them. I'm a big fan of folks that make the JVC stuff. So typical marketing doesn't like showing their backsides. Yes, it's true. They like to keep that covered, which, you know, in some respects we're grateful for. But in this instance, it would be great to see what the I/O looks like, because if there's 8, I saw a drawing, but that's not the same as an actual unit. But if there's 8 NDI sources and then 4 SDI sources, that'd be interesting. But yeah, lots to think about there. Yeah, so I think that is where I want to end it. Happy Star Wars Day, everybody. May the 4th. It is great to be with you. Oh, Laura wants to know, hey, maybe I missed it earlier, but you were talking about Genlock can be SDI inputs, and my BirdDogs both have Genlock code together. I haven't tried it yet with a TriCaster. So the Genlock that is on the BirdDog cameras is the NDI Genlock for NDI 5. And that's a different style of Genlock than the traditional SDI Genlock. So you would be locking the cameras together over IPs, which is basically following the same timecode stamps off of a single camera. So I used to have it set up here where I had a P200, that was my main camera, and I had a couple of PF120s and whatever, and I had Genlocked them all together to reference that camera's timecode, because every NDI device is actually generating its own timecode, and so they all look at the same timecode, and then when when they're locked together, then they send the video out based on the time code of a single camera instead of everybody generating their own. That's how I understand it. I linked them all up. Quite frankly, I didn't notice any difference in the performance of the cameras. They all seem to still be operating the same, and they do in terms of my system with vMix. I don't have any issues with cameras, getting from point A to point B. Whoa, the reds are different. The reds are different in those two shots. But anyways, I don't have any issues syncing video or whatever. And same thing with the P100 overhead. Like, there's no issue with video there. It just seems to be working just fine. So I didn't need it. But then again, I don't have a giant fleet of cameras that are all part of a giant production, so I may not have a tangible use case for it. So there you go. But that's generally how that goes in this case. Hey, for what it's worth, they didn't have a spec sheet at NAB either, just a demo unit. Gotcha. So NDI Genlock is really timecode jam sync. Okay. You can call it that. Yeah, and again, I would like to kind of get into it a bit more with NDI Genlock before I go down that road. I did it. I linked all these cameras up in here that, I had 5 or 6 in here at one point. And I got them all looking at the same camera. It was the P200. It was my main camera for 2 years. And everything worked the same. Everything worked the same as if I didn't have it. But I have a pretty quiet network, and I have a pretty fast network, and I've optimized things where I need it. Apparently, I need to go through the network settings and do that again, but that was where I kind of left it. And then I've swapped out cameras since then and changed things around. So I'm not using that Genlock function anymore. So I think that's it, folks. I think I've got to get back to whatever else that I've got going on, which is a handful of stuff. A lot of fun things up in the air that are underway, projects and such, that will make life a lot easier for everybody in the future. And so I'm very hopeful about that. But if you have any ideas about shows that I need to talk about stuff, if you have any ideas for show topics, please feel free to let me know. I am traveling this weekend, and so I'll be out of the office late tomorrow, and then I'll be back for Monday, and we'll be doing a show on Tuesday. So your schedule here on BirdDogJohn.tv does not change. It will remain the same as it always has, barring I don't get sick or something like that. This show is definitely not brought to you by Ember Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. And I believe the battery on that is dead. So it's not cold, but it's not hot. So that it's been more than an hour. I think that's what it professes to do, is 60 minutes, or maybe it's 90 minutes or something. It's definitely been more than an hour. So it's almost been 2 hours. Well, this show's been on for 2 hours. So I understand that the battery has worn itself down. I should probably move the charging station for that cup in here, or buy a second charging station. But it's in a perfect world, make that all happen. All right. In the meantime, folks, you know the rules. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. It's important these days, so watch out, and let us know if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to us at help@birddog.tv. Be happy to give you a hand if you've got questions or you need some help getting started with your products. No worries there. If you're curious about the product line, hello@birddog.tv has a group of salesmen that are really good with some pre-purchasing questions. If you just want to know more about the product line, need to get in touch with a local distributor or retailer, those guys can help you over there, kind of get you off on the right foot. But if you don't want to submit a ticket and you don't want to talk to the guys over pre-sales, come back on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time right here, and we will chat for at least another hour at birddogjohn.tv. Do me one more favor. If you haven't done so already, head over to that site. That's my YouTube page, and subscribe to that channel. Be much appreciated. That is slowly, incrementally growing. It's great to show that graph to my bosses and to other folks, to show, look, we're actually doing something over here, and people are paying attention. So feel free to jump over there and follow along, subscribe, hit that bell notification, whatever you want to do. Any of the little segments that we did. So I did a studio tour on Tuesday of this space, and I made that into its own video, put up a little thumbnail for it. So any of that stuff gets posted to that site. So if you want to go over there and see those highlights and whatever, that's where they are. So you are very welcome, Laura. Thanks for stopping by today. But yes, jump over there, subscribe to that channel. That would do me a big favor. Subscribe to the BirdDog one too, by the way, BirdDog TV. But the BirdDog John is JON. That is my show, and everything that I do in this studio will be put at least on that site, so you won't miss a thing. Like I said, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We will see you guys in the next one next week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye.